Good evening. What a joy it is to jump into this tonight. This marks 33 years of Evenings with Aaron. We've gone from here to Deep Spring Center, one space and a second space, then at Interfaith Center, and now we're back here. I'm 20 feet away from where we started in my living room. But we've got 53 people on the screen. Aaron and I and many friends, human and spirit, have been working all summer, pulling together this Eden project. Many of you are enrolled in that. Others of you are in the introductory class preparation to be enrolled in that and maybe taking Eden Project alongside. This is absolutely wonderful. It's truly amazing to me. Aaron started to talk about this Eden Project about a year ago as we were moving into year 3 of Dharma Path. And I said, Aaron, you're clearly leading up to something. Do you want to tell me a little about it? And he told me the name, the Eden Project, and what you've all heard. His idea is simply this earth was offered as a Garden of Eden. We've all literally been through that Garden of Eden and chosen to incarnate as human, to come out of the garden, to go through this human form. We keep asking, why am I here? What am I doing here? Aaron's simple answer, we're here to help bring this earth into higher consciousness. Right now, it's not the ultimate reason why we're here, but this is our present work. To help bring this earth into a higher consciousness, to help us all awaken, to literally alleviate suffering of all sentient beings on earth. It's a big project. Clearly, we're not alone. Wonderfully, there are groups just like ours all over the world, Aaron tells me, all doing the same work. He started way back in 1989, just helping us to learn meditation, to learn how to be present, how to rest in awareness, how to open our hearts with love, how to not get caught up in the inner stories of fear and need and confusion, to know who we are beyond these stories. And as I look out here tonight, I'm going onto screen too, trying to see the faces that are out here. There are a few of you out here who were here in 1989, 1990, sitting in my living room. Yet we're doing the same work. We're waking up, or better phrased, we're remembering that we're already awake and how to live that awakeness in the world. We're awake, we're remembering that we are love and how to live that love in the world. We can do it. So that's just a little welcome from me. Those of you who have been coming to the Evenings with Aaron will note that there's a bigger group tonight. And that's because this Evening with Aaron night is now going to be part of the ongoing Eden Project. Instead of giving random talks, Aaron is going to pull together what he's leading in the Eden Project and the different modules and weave it together for us. He'll still speak to questions, but there'll be a more specific focus this year. And many of the class and many other people are drawn to it. I don't know what else to tell you. Just, it's good we're on Zoom because all 54 of you would not fit in my living room. I'm going to move back and bring in Aaron. And before we start, your energetic support is helpful to me. We're holding the space for everybody who is here. We're offering a sanctuary of sorts for everyone who is here, making sure that nothing negative can come in and grab the microphone, so to speak. In other words, we're in a protected space. But we do not want to say that everybody here must be deeply loving. And some of you, including me, there are times I'm not deeply loving. I'd have to leave. We're making a statement that which is not of positive polarity, deeply committed to supporting love throughout the world, doing no harm to anybody. That which is not of such positive polarity still may listen. We hope what we're sharing is helpful to you. But we're setting up an energetic force field based in love, grounded in love. For any negatively polarized being, that force field is going to feel very uncomfortable. So it backs away. It can stand outside the force field and here, or it can go, whatever it wishes. Free will, it's welcome to be here, but it may not interrupt in any way with its negativity, with its energy, with words. That said, we hold a spacious sanctuary, a dome of light around all of this and around each of you in your homes. Loving protection, light. We are light. And then the statement that I make before Aaron incorporates. I consecrate this mind, body, and spirit to the light. Nothing may speak unless it comes for the highest good of all beings and with love. Fully resonant with the great masters like Yeshua and the Buddha. Grounded in love. So I make that statement. And then I basically release my consciousness from the body. And once my consciousness releases, Aaron comes in. So I'll check out and let Aaron come in. Before I come in, and while Barbara consciousness is still kind of here, for those of you who are new to the Eden Project, I'd like to introduce John.
Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to see so many old friends from Dharma Path and other places where we've met before. And I look forward to sharing the Vipassana and Clear Awareness class with you as part of the Eden Project. And of course, participating in the other classes as well. And happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So John and Aaron and I have been teaching together since 1989, a long time. And I'm so happy to have John participating in this with us. My blessings and love to you all. I am Aaron. What a joy to see all of your faces on the screen, to feel the high energy coming forth and the love. You are truly a remarkable group. Remarkable because you are so dedicated to doing this, I don't want to call it spiritual work, this human work of remembering who you are and expressing that awakened heart out into the world as part of the healing energy, part of what really brings us forward, waking up out of darkness and coming into light. Some of you have read my book, Path of Clear Light. It's basically a reminder. You are light. You live in light. You come from light. There is no duality. If no duality, then why is there so much suffering in the world? Why is there such a sense of darkness? Long, long ago and far away, we all lived in a space of interconnection, like the fingers of one hand. The finger doesn't see itself as separate. This finger cannot possibly reach out and hurt that finger. It's one hand. You are all fingers of the one hand. Living in peace that way for however many eons. Learning how it felt to live in peace. Eventually, you had matured to a point where you began to wonder, where is the challenge here? There's nothing that I see that is not me. There's nothing that I see that I do not fully embrace. There's nothing that I see that is not of the core of the divine, of Father, Mother, God, Goddess, love. You also began to wonder, you heard the words co-create, but there was only creation. How can you co-create if you're not separate from anything else? How can you have any free will? You were reminded the challenge of free will is that if your will differs from your will, there can be conflict. And you said, teach us how to deal with conflict, how to live in love, even where there is challenge and catalyst. Are you ready then to step out of this protected garden? Are you ready? And you said yes, or some of you said no, but I'll try anyhow. So each, as they chose from their own free will, stepped out of the garden. I use the Garden of Eden just because you're all familiar with this in this Western world where you live as a biblical example. We don't have to call it Garden of Eden. We can call it House of Love, House of Non-Duality. But Garden of Eden is a useful image. Part of the stepping out of that Garden of Eden involved a change in your DNA as you came into this heavy density form, not just energy, but expressing with a literal physical body. You had so much power within the garden because there was no sense of duality and no way that any individual could do harm to any other individual. You knew how to create, to invite the rock, the marble slabs to cut themselves up and shift themselves into temples and shelters. You knew how to invite the food to grow. What you took in as food, which was not a physical food, but energetic. You had unlimited power. But you did not have emotions. You felt joy and sorrow, but never anger, never hostility toward another sentient being, never fear. If you had moved into form at that point, with the power you had, this world would not have lasted very long. You would have destroyed each other in the world immediately. Because as soon as you thought, I'd hate you, die, everything before you would die, you had that power. So you agreed to a limiting of the DNA, a changing of it, so that you could no longer just imagine something and create it. How many of you wish that you could do that? Barbara was looking at her now September garden today and saying, I wish I could just invite all of the dead plants to rise up and jump into the recycling bin, composting bin. You don't have that capacity. So human life moved into a co-creating in a sense of you work with whatever is around you. But if you want to plant a garden, you can't just invite it to grow. You have to literally turn the soil and plant the seeds. If you want to resolve a difficult conversation with another person, you cannot use telepathy at this stage. You have to really get down and talk about it and about what was painful and how it was painful, and learn to hear each other and to communicate without blaming each other. When anger arises, you have to learn how to resolve the anger, not enact the anger. I'm laughing. In short, you have to learn a form of mindfulness. And that's why we have spent so many years learning Vipassana. A few of you are probably newer and are not familiar with mindfulness and Vipassana meditation. We'll use a primary object, for example, the breath. But we are not forcing attention on the breath. When something draws attention from that primary object, we turn attention to what has drawn our attention. Not to absorb into it, but just to be present with it. We don't get lost in it. We practice not getting thusly lost. But we note the itching, the unpleasant thought. So with meditation, we watch an object arise and we see how it arises out of conditions and passes away. We even see our tendency to get lost in that object, that fear, that anger, to create stories, and how we do that. And we learn that we do not have to do that we have a choice. I like to phrase it this way: that which is aware of anger is not angry. That which is aware of fear is not afraid. We watch the difficult emotions arise, holding the intention to do no harm with what has arisen, to hold space for it and take care of it until it resolves itself. Some of this teaching comes from a beautiful sutra that I love from the Buddha, Bhayabharava Sutra. The story is that the Buddha was meditating. Let me backtrack. The Buddha heard that many monks went to a haunted shrine to meditate, and there they encountered fear and dread. Some of them ran away. Some of them made themselves stay, but it did not lessen the fear and dread. He said, I will go there and practice. I will allow, this is not his words, but my statement on his words. I will allow the experience of fear and dread and allow that experience until it resolves itself. And of course it did. This is what we've been practicing for 3 years in the Dharma Path class, and for many of you, decades before that of practice. To be present with what arises in your experience, with a loving heart, with compassion for the human experiencing this difficult mind or body state. Not to try to fix it or get rid of it, but to know right here with anger, with fear, with confusion, is this awakened presence that I am. I do not deny these catalysts that are catching me, but I also don't have to be stuck into them. I don't have to build stories on them. We'll combine this practice with pure awareness. That which is aware of the arising of anger or fear or whatever is not caught in it, is not self-identified with it. But we can also practice pure awareness separately from the Vipassana. We can see how they go together. Thus, one of the modules of the class is Vipassana and pure awareness with John. This is not going to be a class where we just talk about things. It is going to be a class where you move further into waking up. So this is one module. Other modules I'll talk about a little later in this talk. Let's go back to this emerging being. Moving out of the Garden of Eden and finding itself with an emotional body, and perhaps not having yet developed the tools of mindfulness and meditation, caught up in all this emotional turmoil. But because the DNA was altered, you didn't have the power to destroy. Well, you've come a long way since then, and unfortunately developed the power to destroy. You can drop a nuclear bomb, but far less instant than that, but just as severe. You can poison the earth, as you are doing. You can poison each other with words of hatred. You can kill each other. And you can kill all the sentient beings, the different species around you. Enough. The earth for a long time has been moving into a transition that was known would come far before Yeshua's lifetime 2,000 years ago. The one you know is Yeshua. He came into that time and with a great team of supporters to create a readiness for the earth to begin. The earth had been devolving into negativity, filled with hatred, greed. It came to help people remember love, to remember the light. Just as the Buddha had come 500 years earlier to help people remember that they had the potential to be awake, to be Buddhas just as he was. Some people caught on in the Buddha's lifetime, but so many did not, because so many were caught up in personal negativity. So Yeshua came. So many of your teachings say he came to free you from a sin. Well, I use the word sin as sinking into negativity. As I just said, the world was devolving into increasing negativity, truly sinking into negativity. And he came to remind you, stop. Remember who you are. You are of the light. You are divine. You don't have to keep sinking into negativity. Wake up. Remember who you are. I use a fulcrum here. As the earth was pulling down into negativity, he brought it more into balance, helping many of you to remember who you are. This was coordinated with the movements of the planets and so much else you don't need to know about. I don't speak here of things that you cannot know from your own experience. And the movements of the planets are not something you can know. The movement of your heart is something you can know. You have been moving more and more into the light, into readiness to know the light, which knowing would have terrified you 2,000 years ago, many of you. The whole earth has been moving into a readiness for a higher consciousness, to become that Eden from which you came, but not on the earth plane so long ago. To help this whole earth become that Eden. You might say, are you crazy, Aaron? Look at the hatred in the world. Look at the pollution. Look at the terrible problems. How can we be heading toward an Eden? Good question. Another favorite quote from the Buddha. Abandon the unwholesome. If it were not possible, I would not ask you to do it. Cultivate the wholesome. If it were not possible, I would not ask you to do it. I'm cutting out quite a bit of that sutra, just giving high points. Abandon the unwholesome. Cultivate the wholesome. That beautiful reassurance. I'm looking on Barbara's altar. She had it big somewhere, but I don't see it. If it were not possible, I would not ask you to do it. You can cultivate the wholesome. You can cultivate wisdom and compassion, loving kindness, non-dual awareness, and non-dual living. You can abandon the unwholesome. Everything in the universe comes in cycles, and this earth has been cycling out of a place of darkness and into a higher vibration for all these years. Well, humans have created much destruction in the earth. That doesn't mean the core of the earth cannot heal and come back into the high consciousness, which is this true earth, your true home, a ground of love, of compassion for all sentient beings. Some of you with a long time at Dharma practice have a deep commitment to awaken, either with the Theravada ideal of awakening and moving to be an arahant, moving beyond and becoming the high energy that supports everything from after that. Some of you from the Bodhisattva, being one who serves and helps alleviate the suffering on the earth. This resonates for either idea. Wake up! But let me not even say it that way, because you are already awake. Remember and live this awakened heart. And that's what our Eden Project class is here to help you do. It is time. It is time to remember who you are and why you have come, and how to do the work you came to do. Because if you don't do it now, you are going to reach a tipping point where the earth begins to slide back into darkness. I do not predict the future. This is not a prediction. This is simply a likelihood. If you sit and watch that tide to come in, you might say, pretty soon I'm going to get wet. Well, you've seen enough tides that you know how tides work. Eventually, the tide is going to wash over you. The tide of fear, of hatred. Let us not go there, but remember and wake up to your true potential as human. Your true potential for love, and to learn how to co-create a world of peace, harmony, and abundance. If it were not possible, I would not ask you to do it. The other modules of our project, for those who have not yet seen this in the class list. One module is Dharma Path, the continuation of the past 3 years. We'll look at the actual practices, both mundane world practices and more supra-mundane practices of elevating consciousness and releasing negativity. The other 2 modules come together on one night. One, simply the Eden Project. Really getting to know this Eden Project and how we participate in it. And the module accompanying that is mediumship, not to teach your channel, although that could come in another semester, another time. But you are all mediums, and if you're going to be a medium, you need to be a responsible medium. When you handle your trash, you're being a medium for that trash, and whether it's going to add a plastic to the landfill or how it's going to be disposed of. When you make soup and you have the array of vegetables, perhaps chicken, spices, herbs, you are a medium for that soup, a medium for all the ingredients. Does the ego say, here's the recipe, this much of this much of that? Or just the awakened heart hold the carrots and say, how many of you should be in this broth? How much onion? How much of this herb? Holding it, talking to it, letting it speak to you, being a medium for the soup. When you play your instrument, you are a medium for the music. When you paint a picture, you are a medium for the paint, the canvas. So we could have called this module, You're Safe. We could have called this module Co-Creation. But I felt I wanted to use the word mediumship because mediumship is a misunderstood term, and I wanted you to understand the fullness of the term. As you practice mediumship, you learn co-creation. But we start with mediumship, understanding the interconnection with all things, and how you, as the medium, are given the opportunity to hear the world around you and participate with the intention to hold the space for love and non-harm to all peoples. In the mediumship module, we likely will touch on connecting with your higher self, perhaps, or your guides, not to channel them vocally, but just to connect. We'll see how the class goes. What do we do about the poisoning of the earth with pollutants? What do we do about the poisoning of human minds and hearts with words of hatred, prejudice, misuse of power and weapons? So many of you have been expressing in despair about COVID and the seeming overtaking of the earth by a virus, about the environment, the hurricanes, the tornadoes, the fires, the floods, the destruction of the forests, the rivers, the seas. You come to me saying, what's happening, Aaron? How do I live with this? What difference can I make? Is the earth going to destroy itself? That's not a question I can answer. And the earth will not destroy itself. Those living on the earth can destroy the earth unless you stop it soon and turn it around. But I strongly feel it is not too late. Every sentient being, and I consider the earth a sentient being, every sentient being can heal, has the capacity to restore itself into its radiance. But it needs help. If you see a field filled with trash, you don't look at the field and say, oh, trash, you need to pick yourselves up and fly away. You call a number of friends and say, on Saturday, let's all meet and clean up the spark. The earth is calling to you. Help me, help me. And there is so much you can do. People ask me, Aaron, what's happening in Afghanistan? For 20 years, we were a presence there, trying to stop the flow of hatred that had seemed to overtake that country. Do we just leave it to fester and hatred? But of course there are loving beings there. Of course there is a light there. Perhaps, I say this as perhaps, I can't answer this, it's just a possibility. Perhaps they're trying from this country to protect Afghanistan from the negativity there. Took power away from those who could have stood up to the negativity. In a sense, we were saying, you're still children and you need our protection. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing that your country has left Afghanistan. Only since it's a done fact, can you look at all of those who have loving hearts in Afghanistan and say, yes, now we trust you, that you can resolve the mass of negativity there from your own love and energy. And instead of an army of men with rifles, we will create an army of love worldwide, offering energy and love. to help support those in Afghanistan and anywhere in the world who would stand up to cruelty, hatred, and destruction. As a part of the Dharma Path class, we spent much of a year looking at what I call Path of Sacred Darkness. And I plan to take us further on that. This will be a primary piece. This will be a primary piece of the Dharma Path class, looking at the arising of negativity in ourselves and in the world, the way we back away from negativity instead of knowing this negativity has another side. It has a side of love. And I choose to open up into that love in myself, each of us using ourselves and our own fears, opinions, negativity as the heart of the practice. Who am I without this strong negative opinion? When I move past this fear, what remains? So this path of sacred darkness will be a primary part of the Dharma Path class, but not the only part. Whether you're part of the class or not, I hope you will begin to look gently, kindly, and with compassion for the earth at the places of fear, of bigotry, of negativity, of strong negative opinion in yourself. You are not trying to fix these kinds of feelings, but to see right there with that negativity, where is love? Right there with fear, where is the one who is not afraid? Right here with the fires burning through the West, where is the healthy land? Where is the moisture, the rain, not in overabundance, but just right to quench the fires? How do we re-invite this flow? Because all the elements are out of balance. Too much fire here, too much water there, floods and fire. Winds, tornadoes there. How do we bring the elements back into balance? This is going to be part of the Dharma Path class also. Working with the elements in ourselves as we balance those in ourselves, we become able to help support the balancing of elements in the earth. Whether you're in the class or not, this is still work that you can do. And yes, although it will take, I'd say, a month for any class transcript to be reviewed and posted in a place where those not in the class can see it. Eventually, they will be posted. So let's take this a step further. What does an earth transition look like? You're not going to see anything major. If the earth does move into the direction we all pray it will, and the sentient beings on the earth, I think the primary experience will be one of a greater balance. Balance of the emotions, balance of the earth elements, balance of masculine and feminine energies, balance of light and darkness, less extreme and more just leaning toward the light. People have asked if humans move through this kind of transition, If humans become fourth, fifth density beings instead of third density, what will happen to them? And what will happen to those who can't make that transition? Again, I do not predict the future, but I want to remind you that this is a cycle of many millennia, and you happen to be living at the time of the transition, not by accident, but because you have chosen to be on the earth at this time. You have chosen to support the power of love and of light on the earth. You have chosen to assist the alleviation of suffering of the earth and all sentient beings. So what will happen? We've talked about the shift from third density to fourth, where you are much less locked into the personal self and more part of I like the term that my friend Kuo uses in the Aaron Kuo dialogues. He describes himself as part of a social memory complex. What does it feel like to be part of a social memory complex? Those who have been in the Dharma path, small groups, can answer that. You've deeply enjoyed and benefited by the connection with each other, by experiencing still the separate self, of course, but also the trust of one another to share your experience, knowing nobody else will do you harm because of that experience. That people will support your moving through hard experiences as you will each support each other. You feel the energetic connection. You feel the love. So it has seemed to me that for most of you, by the time you finish with this lifetime, you're probably going to move into a fifth and not a fourth density experience, because you're getting the fourth density experience right here. In order to do that, you have to let down so much of the old habitual shielding, armor, fear, and learn to trust yourself and each other. The earth itself will heal in the same way, coming more and more to reflect the high vibrational earth that it can be. It's not going to happen all at once, certainly. But there will be a transition into better balance. I would think that the extremes of weather will pass. The earth will begin to radiate its light more fully. The water will clear, the forests will grow strong, and sentient beings, species that have been so diminished, hopefully will return. I can't tell you this is how it will be. No one can predict. I only know that love and light are the ground which return us to our true essence. No matter what form we have taken on this earth, they return us to our true essence. In January, we're going to have a week-long, the last week of January into early February, a week-long, I don't want to call it healing workshop so much as returning to our true essence workshop. Looking at the nature of distortion and how we invite the release of such distortion. I won't expand on that here. I'm only mentioning it because basically this is what we're doing, not just in a workshop, but in our daily life. Looking at the nature of fear or anger. Banner was sitting here leaning against my knees, shaking. And while I was talking to you, I also had one hand on his head, just patting him. Not speaking to him because I was speaking to you, but letting him know through energy, you are safe, Banner. You are loved. And while I could see the storm intensifying, I could also see Banner lessening in his fear. And eventually he crawled out from under the desk. You're all crawling out from under the desk, shell-shocked from the thunder, but ready to crawl out. Whether it's emotional wounds, physical illness, whatever it may be, you have the power to release so much of that distortion and return to the true self. This does not guarantee that the body can heal. But you cease to be self-identified as that broken body. More aware of who and what you truly are. Those who are not ready for such healing, as the earth moves into a new, higher density, what will happen to it? Again, I don't predict the future. But what it seems to me will happen is that as beings die off naturally, if they are not ready to return to a higher vibrational earth, they will go to other third density planets that have been prepared for them, that will offer not identical situations to Earth, maybe better situations, maybe a more pristine and loving environment, who knows? But there are beings preparing these third density planets so that those who will find Earth's vibration too high for their comfort will have an alternative of planet that is at a vibration that feels suitable to their level of work. There will always be new souls going through, always. Another question that's been asked frequently. If we are all moving into higher consciousness, transitioning into higher consciousness, but all of us, all of you as humans on Earth, you have not fully released the karma of this lifetime, of many lifetimes. Can you move on into transition? What happens to that karma? High vibration, love, forgiveness, compassion, heal karma. There are two aspects to karma: the healing of it and release, and the balancing of it. As you move into a higher energy and all your bodies, physical, mental, emotional, spirit, as these all raise in vibration, some of the old karma simply releases. Someone recently called it grace. I'm not sure I would use the word grace unless we understood what grace means. Grace is the gift of light and love, which is the essence of you. The ability to return to that essence and become who you truly are. It is not something where somebody comes along with a magic wand and says, by grace, I release your karma. Rather, the awakening heart of light and love releases the places where karma sticks, so the karma can literally release. Am I saying there is no such thing as grace? Not quite. But we have to understand what we mean by grace. Some of you will twist it and say, maybe I don't deserve grace. Well, if you feel you don't deserve grace, then you're not in a place to receive the grace that is offered. But it's not about deserving, it's about receiving. As you move into a higher vibration and forgive yourself for the negativity in this and past lives, and hold the commitment to be of loving service to others, you release the stickings to which that karma adhered. The karma must still be balanced. It has released. And as a higher density being, there will be ample opportunity to do work that balances that karma. I want to use Barbara as an example. I know she will not mind. One of the pieces of karma that Barbara has come into this lifetime with was feelings of shame and unworthiness. Part of this comes from past lifetimes and often from things that were not within her power to change. Places where somebody died, for example, and she had no control of whether that person died, but felt shame that she could not prevent that death. Felt anger at that person for dying, and shame that she felt anger. So these were some of the areas of karma with which she came into the lifetime. She has gone deep in her meditation and in many ways releasing that karma. There's very little of that adhering karma about shame or unworthiness left for her now. But in teaching you how to release your feelings, your karma and feelings of shame and unworthiness, she's balancing the karma. Does that make sense to you? Each of you will be led to balance the karma that you have released and given many ways to do that. No right or wrong way. But when something comes up for you, when you ask yourself, why am I being offered the opportunity to do this? Why would I want to do this? Can I do it? Am I capable of doing it? Yes. If it were not possible, we would not ask you to do it. It would not be offered as possibility if it were not for your highest good and that of others. So you look at something that's been offered and said, oh, I can't do that. Well, really? Maybe you can. And if you do, in what way may it be of service to others and to yourself? In ways may it release further and balance old karma? So as you move into a higher density earth, the high vibration takes away the glue that held the karma, but you will still have opportunities and need to balance. Again, something we can talk further about as we move into this coming year. There is so much wonderful possibility for the earth. I hope you will watch the feelings of dismay, even despair. Feel how your energy field contracts when you despair, and that pulls down the vibration. You have a choice to open more into the high vibration, into the heart of love, or to continue sinking into negativity. I want to get up here and say, stop sinning, stop sinning. But it comes to that. Stop sinking into negativity. You really don't need to do that anymore. It's not who you are. You are loving, radiant, awakened beings. It's time to start living that awakeness. There is so much help to do this. Each of you with your own guides, your own higher self, your own spirit and human teachers, your own friends, your Sangha, your family, whoever contributes to your more fully awakening. Personally, I do not choose to waste my time. So if I did not believe that you were in process of awakening and capable of taking it further, in process of helping lift this earth into a higher vibration, and through its transition into a higher vibrational planet, I would not choose to be here. I love you, yes. But much more, I believe in you. I trust you. I have known some of you through many lifetimes and watched you emerge from a place of darkness into the light. So let's go. Let's do this. Barbara told you that I began to talk about this several years ago. Actually, Barbara and I planned to work together in this way before her present lifetime. She was surprised. What is the spirit doing here? But all I could say was, shh, we planned it. Just be quiet and let's work together. I planned it knowing the many steps that would be needed to bring a large group of you through this kind of more full awakening. We've been feeding it to you piece by piece. Some of you may want to go back and read some of the books. Books like Awakened Heart, No Chain at All, Presence, Kindness, and Freedom, Human, Path of Clear Light, and others. Hopefully, we'll soon have all the archives available online and easy access to these books and to the full 30 years of archives. It's a lot of pages. But it just comes back to this one thing. You have come into this incarnation choosing to live with love, to awaken to your true self, to support other beings to awaken in this way, to come to an earth that is awakening. Why would you choose to fail? I don't think you did. I've mentioned that there will be help. we have some guest speakers. One who will have great importance in the program came as a big surprise to Barbara this spring, because she is not an entity that Barbara has ever really given any consideration to. This is the figure of Mary Magdalene. Barbara grew up in a Jewish home. All of the figures of traditional Christianity were non-entities to her. She had a great love for Yeshua, but she had no training as a Christian. So when Mary first arrived, she said, well, who are you and why are you here? Which is what she usually says to an entity when it appears. Mary simply said, I come as a friend. Will you meditate with me? And Barbara began to get to know her energy. And then, will you speak with me? And then, will you allow me to use your body as an instrument to incorporate in your body so I can speak to others? Barbara has been finding Mary to be a remarkable being. Wise, loving. She is not here to promote Christianity. She was not a Christian. She's here to remind you and teach of non-duality. She is a master teacher. She's agreed to speak for just a few minutes tonight. I trust all of you will feel comfortable hearing her. Please do not confuse her with the Mary Magdalene of the New Testament of the Bible. So I will probably come back after Mary speaks, just giving her 5 minutes or so. I'll come back and say hello and open the floor to questions. But I'd like to give her a chance to meet you all. Barbara's tired. I've been in her body for an hour and 45 minutes. So I'm going to bring Mary in very briefly, invite Mary and not bring. She comes on her own. She doesn't need me to bring her, only to invite. But I want to give you a chance to be with her. There will be other entities working with us too. Love, who many of you have experienced before. My teacher, Ariel. Yeshua, probably. And others. For now, just Mary. My love to you. I am simply Mary. I don't need a chain of names. I have deep training through many human lifetimes. I have been both a male and female, but most often and most recently female, because a bigger part of my work was to work with Yeshua to bring a balance of the divine feminine and the masculine, which had grown so out of balance in his lifetime 2,000 years ago. We came together with purpose to do that. If I am knocking into some of your religious beliefs, I apologize. You can think of me as some other Mary. If the Mary Magdalene in the Bible has special religious significance to you, that's fine with me. I do not teach with theory and a lot of mental activity. I like to keep it simple to help you remember the essence of your being through energy, not just my energy, our energy. To remember what it means to acknowledge I am love. The one you call the mother often comes in, telling you, you are loved, you are loved. So I think we have a different energy, and I deeply love and respect the mother. But I am not the mother. I am Mary. I am a master of many different traditions. And it gives me much joy to be able to offer support to you as you move through the stages of this program. For now, Aaron, I knew you were going to answer questions, but may I simply do a 5-minute guided meditation with them? I know we don't have much time. He says, yes, thank you, Aaron. By the way, I have much love and respect for Aaron. You are in the hands of Aaron as a master teacher also. I'd like you to think of something, anything that's happened to you in the last day or two that was upsetting to you. A place of some fear, sadness, or anger. Just briefly bring it to your mind. And then put it down as on the table in front of you. A deep, cleansing breath. Now bring into your presence something that feels deeply supportive of love, of joy, of peace. Not necessarily all three, but something that comes to you as the heart of love. A flower, a butterfly, a giant oak, a window, a hug from a friend. I want you to communicate that to that ground of love and feel me holding it out to you, literally, offering it back to you. Open your arms to receive it. You may have your eyes closed or you may keep them open and looking into my eyes, if that's all. Receiving this ground of love. Is there anything that blocks the receiving? You handed it to me. I am merely handing it back to you. But if it's too hard to take it, I'll hold it for you until you're ready to take it. Simply remember what it is. This loving word, this thought, I did this practice to see how it would feel to Barbara. You know, her husband has severe aphasia after a stroke 2 years ago, and has not really been able to communicate anything to her more than a hug or taking her hand. But they have a new process with a keyboard on the computer. And she said something to him, and he typed, "Thank you, honey." Such simple words. Thank you. But it's the first time that she's heard that kind of phrase from him in 3.5 years. And she just broke up crying. It opened her heart. She saw how she had been armoring herself, trying to hold herself strong against the pain of his stroke. And his words, "Thank you," broke open her heart and allowed her to release some of that armoring and fear. This is the kind of process that we're in. Look now at that pain with which you started. That's fear or confusion. Turn to me and say, "I am ready to receive the precious gift that I shared with you. Whatever love, whatever was given, I return it to you. Hold it out for you. This is your true being. I offer it to you. And if you cannot take it now, know that I never tire of holding it to you. It is a vow. Giving and receiving. Letting go of the blocks to giving and receiving. So that that which felt distorted may release. Love filling the space. I learned this practice in the mystery schools in Alexandria 2,000 years ago. It's part of my training in that lifetime. I invite you to sit with me and be part of the school now. To know all things are possible with love. You are beautiful, and I love you. Thank you for letting me share this, and I'm rushing more than I normally would, but I want Aaron to have the last few minutes. I'm going to release the body to him. I am Mary. Hello, I am Aaron. I'm back. Thank you, Mary. So Mary will be a somewhat frequent guest speaker on our classes. A big part of what she has helped with on Earth in recent years is the balancing of the masculine and feminine. And I think this is an essential part of your healing. I hope she can help us, all of you, to find the balance of masculine and feminine energy in yourselves. Because through establishing that balance in yourselves, you can help recreate the balance on the earth. Give thanks to the Mother Gaia Give thanks to the Father, Son. Give thanks for the fruit of the garden, where the Father and the Mother are one. Give thanks to Brother Water. Give thanks to Sister Air. Give thanks for Sacred Spirit, dwelling every way. I am Aaron. I hold you in love. I embrace each of you. I invite you to deepen in your commitment in this lifetime. A commitment to service for the highest good of all beings, to support the awakening of all beings, the freedom from suffering for all sentient beings and for the earth. Thank you for walking this path with me. I love you. I am Aaron. I'll release the body to Barbara. Thank you, Aaron. Aaron is right on the dot. I see it's 9 o'clock. This is Barbara. Thank you for being with us tonight.